We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Djaja country. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 70 of the Beyond 90 podcast. My name's Cheryl Downs. My pronouns are she, her, and great to have you on board listening to yet another week in football. It's been a big one, as they always are, but I'm starting to do the countdown to the A-League Women, previously known as the W League, and also to the Asian Cup, which is a massive event. So get excited about that as well. Eric, do tell about yourself.
Do tell. Thanks so much, Cheryl. Thanks for having me on again. So for those of you that do not know who I am, I, written a fair bit for Beyond 90. I'm also commentate a lot of NPL women's games in New South Wales for NPL TV. And apparently I'm a Melbourne City fan now.
That's interesting.
Yes. I wonder why.
The nuance of that, Eric, is potentially to do with one or two players, given that you're based in Sydney. It's not the first team you would talk about.
Yeah, but I then thanks by the way, thanks Cheryl for tolerating my tantrum in our Slack so that I am actually doing the Melbourne City preview this year. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm sure there will be some bias in there. Maj, tell us about yourself and what a big football fan you are.
Yeah, so I guess football fan is probably the apt description. I've been a fan for, I'm really bad with dates, but let's say like a decade. I've been hanging around the traps. Big Brisbane Roar fan, so I guess that's what got me in, sort of the W League on ABC in the Sunday afternoons, and seeing the players run around, and then going, I might get out and see some of those games. And then, of course, the Matildas and the national team. So I'm a founding member of the Raw Corps, which is a supporter base for the A-League women's team here in Brisbane for the Brisbane Raw, and also involved with Matildas Active Support. So fandom is my thing.
Very good. All right. And as I said, my name's Cheryl. I'm part of the Beyond 90 crew as well. I'm the co-founder of Beyond 90, and I also have spent a number of years just following football aimlessly until I found my place, which is maybe just to talk with friends about it and write about it. Massive Melbourne Victory fan, but I actually just love football, particularly women's football. And I think it's a really great community that we get to hang out with. And that's one of the strengths of women's football in Australia and also around the world. Now, one of the things which we love to do here, or certainly I love to do it on the podcast, is to talk about history, because we're living in the present in a time where players like Sam Kerr have got so much visibility on them, and you could walk down the street and pretty much everyone in Australia and around the world would know about Sam Kerr. But what we try and do is pay a little bit of respect to the players who have been here in the past and help create the Matildas to where they are today. So we base it based on which episode we're up to, and we're currently up to episode 70. So cap number 70 is a player by the name of Donna Fredrickson. She was a midfielder who played for Country United, and she's also coached and managed in the Mackay Women's Football or Soccer Association. I should be really clear about that as well. When you're listening to us talk about football, we talk about soccer, but we just call it football. I appreciate that people who listen to this maybe on the Joy platform might think of it as soccer. So please bear with us as we do call it by what we believe to be the beautiful game, the beautiful name. Going back to Donna played only 2 matches for Australia. Both were against New Zealand back in 1991. But there you go, history cap number 70. Let's talk about hot topics of the week. And one of the biggest topics that's out and about at the moment is in 18 days, the W League or the A-League women's season starts with the first match between the brand new team in the competition for the women, which is Wellington Phoenix, against, and I always forget, but I'm pretty sure it's against the Western Sydney Wanderers. The big news is that the draw is out, and this is something that fans of football in Australia always are on the edge of their seats trying to work out when will they announce it. Will it be a week before the competition starts, or could we have a bit of visibility of what's coming? But we're fortunate. We've got the whole draw now. Prior to this, we only had the first 4 rounds, and there's a hell of a lot of double headers in there. Eric, your thoughts on those?
I think double headers, they are they're great if you're working both games, like in a media or another capacity. And I'm not sure who else that helps. I don't have that many form thoughts on double headers, because I do have this tendency, if the women are playing first, of just leaving after the women's game finishes. I've done this. I remember once it was a doubleheader, Wanderers Sydney FC in the W League, and then Sydney FC versus Perth in the men afterwards. So I just strolled on by. The security guard questioned me on the way out. Oh, you can't get back in. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I just kept walking. So perhaps I'm not the best person to ask, but I do know, especially people I know that have young kids, 2 games in one day that's a big no. That's like climbing Mount Everest, really. So I'd be interested to know Madge's thoughts, but I just, apart from potentially people like me who might be doing media, I'm not sure who would. And the broadcasters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who it actually suits.
Yeah, I think, look, and well, let's talk about the positives first. I mean, I think with the new broadcast deal, I mean, that's a big driver behind the move to so many double headers, I think, this season. So there's the broadcasting facilities at the larger stadiums, as well as the PFA mandating minimum facility standards, which are all great things, because there have been in the past that A-League women have had to play at fields and using facilities that are substandard. So these are all great things. I really hope that the Paramount and Channel 10 deal, which it seems to be going really well at the moment, but hopefully that will help raise the profile of the women's game, and we have a really nice polished product to show the rest of the world with those great broadcasting standards. But, and the big but, is it seems like we're giving up a lot of game day experience for the fans to make that happen. Like you said, 5 hours for two games. I've always been a person that when it comes to double headers, if it's a one-off or an occasional thing that's really built as an event, people can plan for that. But if this is going to be the norm, which for many teams, I think Victory, every single home game of theirs is a double header. In Brisbane, I think we've got 4 of our 6 or 7, however many we get now, are double headers as well. So that makes it a really long day, and I can't see that many people consistently committing to watching both teams on a game day consistently, week in and week out. And then we just get, as a fan group, it makes life difficult for us, because we're often, the women's game is sort of pitched as a bit of a curtain raiser. We've got difficulties finding a spot for us to set up, especially in COVID times, when we don't. There's a bigger focus on allocated seating, and members have their seats that they like to have. So if you try and set up and bring just the women's fans together to make noise and get together as a community, it really makes that hard, because we're now just sort of dispersed all around the stadium. The stadiums don't open up very early before the women's game. So look, there's we have to be pragmatic in some respects about what the A-leagues are trying to do in professionalising the game and professionalising the product. But I'd really love there to be a focus on improving and making sure that the game day experience for the A-League women's fans isn't forgotten in that process.
I would love to see double headers where it's just either the A-League men or the A-League women, because I think then you've got fans who are connected with the game. And it is interesting that you'll find many people who love the women's football don't love as much the men's football, and vice versa. And that's not because either variation is good or bad. It's just because it's your preference. Be the same in footy in AFL. I would imagine that you've got people who just love AFL women's. That's just what they love. So given that we've got Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City, there's an opportunity to have a double header with those teams playing against someone else. And then you could have a bit of a round robin potentially as well. If Brisbane and Canberra were to come down, you could play a couple of those together. But yeah, double headers for me, they probably make sense logistically, but for the fans, I think it's a really tough proposition. But I'd sit there and watch 4 hours of football if it was, back-to-back women's football. Hey, throw back to Eric as well, because this is a topic that's incredibly close to your heart or maybe your stomach. If you're there for that duration, what about the food offerings at the venues? And it's not just, me being vegan, it's bugger all, to be honest, but it's pie and chips kind of fare is not something that you'd be excited about sharing in between those matches. But if they make it an experience with what do they call them, the trailer parties or something or other like that as well, with some good entertainment, it could be something that really captures people. But this sounds like something that's going to capture the market who watch it on TV but aren't necessarily going to the games and being those active supporters, which the players love. The players love to have fans out there who are making noise that they can hear, not someone sitting in front of the telly having a yell at the referee and no one can hear them.
Yeah, the food thing is interesting. And the issue is that I don't know what Madge's views of, say, Suncorp are or other venues in Brisbane. I've heard a fair few people complain about the food at Amy Park. It's not great at Sydney's biggest stadiums either. And really, the food experience, it's best at smaller suburban grounds where clubs can, hire food trucks if they so wish. Or in the case of Marconi Stadium, Western Sydney, there's the club next door, something like that. So, yeah, I'm not sure it helps the food thing. Keeping it positive, I'm shamelessly stealing this from someone on the Far Post spot. I can't remember who. It was pointed out that it's, at least with, say, Victory having all their doubleheaders at Amy Park, it's good for the players to have one home ground, not the great travelling show that I think especially Sydney FC have been kind of famous for in recent years, and to some extent the Wanderers as well. Like, they get one home ground, they get used to the venue, potentially they can train there as well, and it doesn't have the situation which you can get sometimes where there's a crucial late season game and the home team's supposed to have the advantage, but it's the first time they've been there, so kind of nullifying home field advantage. I will say one thing about doubleheaders, like, at least can they please open the gates, I don't know, half an hour before kickoff, not like one time where I was watching a game with Beyond 90's own Molly Appleton. She was up in Sydney for a season, and they opened the gates a whole 5 minutes before kickoff with the expected effect to atmosphere. Molly and I were okay because we had media passes, but it's not great for the public, really.
No, it's not that, and that's pretty common. And I think that's probably where I get back to my point is I'll grumble about not having my suburban ground experience in Brisbane as much anymore. And we do need to be, I guess, pragmatic about those benefits in the broadcast and the player facilities as well, which are fantastic. But yes, so there are things that I think the A-Leagues could work on to make that game day experience as a double header better than it has been in the past, because it's fallen short, I think.
Double headers, love them or hate them, they're going to be there one way or another. I think we've lost Thursday night football as well, which is a bit of a cultural amazingness for us in the football world. It was really a night that you could just sit down and watch football. But moving on from that, probably the biggest news in world football around the last week has been something that broke on, I can't remember if it was Sunday morning, where there was an attack on a PSG and French international player, Kheira HamraouiFA. I have to try and pronounce it as best as possible. Now, Kheira is a player who's pretty dominant in some of certainly for PSG, but as a French international, great player to watch out there playing football. But interesting, it took a weird turn. I'm just trying to think about how to best describe it. So one of her teammates was together in a car with her. That teammate was arrested because they actually thought it was her who had organised the whole attack. Now it's been reversed. They're saying that it wasn't her. She's completely denied it. And the police have they didn't charge her, so they've not withdrawn charges, but they've released her and now they're focusing on someone else entirely. It has shades of Nancy Kerrigan and, oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name. Tonya Harding. Dale, welcome to the podcast. Dale, give us a quick introduction to yourself, and then we're going to throw to you and you can wrap up the conversation on this bit.
My name's Dale, and I'm your local Sydney football reporter. Pleased to meet you. My take on this is just like, it's the most completely bizarre story. Like, it's just so weird. I mentioned this to a few non-footballing friends of mine, and they were just like, I don't understand. Like, it was really just out of the blue. I don't think I've ever heard of anything like this in the world of like mainstream football, men or women, like outside of like non-football goings on, like people being, there's been some weird stuff in French football in the last couple of years. There's a court case going on about that, but this is a PG-13 show, so we won't be discussing it. But yeah, like this is just completely weird. And I think that when the story broke, Eric and I were talking about this off mic, but like it was, I think the easiest thing to kind of conceptualize was that Diallo was somehow behind this, because she was there and there was understanding that she was somehow involved in the background. But yeah, it's just, I think the more that we learn about this, the stranger it's going to get, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we can't jump into quickly too deeply because it's based on, what are the facts that we're going to get versus what's in the news. They're very different things. So we'll wait and see how that one plays out. But the most important thing is that we hope that Hamraoui is going to be okay. There was a result on the weekend where the number 1 team played the number 2 team in the French league. Number 1 is Lyon, which is where Ellie Carpenter, one of the Australian Matildas, she's playing for them, and they had a massive win over PSG. Lyon, PSG, they're very tight in terms of capability and certainly on the ladder. Last season was the first season in, I can't remember, 15 seasons or something or other that PSG had actually bested Lyon. But to see the difference in the result, I wonder how much impact that's had. Let's keep moving through our list of things to talk about. So Football Australia this week announced or actually last week, I think it was, announced the establishment of the National Indigenous Advisory Group for Football, which is a terrific initiative. There've been, I say, a number of wonderful footballers with Indigenous backgrounds in our community, but probably not enough and probably not supported enough. So it's not just the volume of players, but it's how they're being supported. So that's yet another terrific initiative that's come out of Football Australia. And I really do think that they're doing some good things. And then given that we've got 18 days until the A-League Women starts, which we will always call the Dub, and season 14 squad update. Eric, do you want to take us through some of that?
I certainly will. So, teams keeping us busy. Firstly, I think it's great to see Annabelle Martin back in the competition. She will be joining up with Wellington Phoenix. Last time we saw her in action was when she unfortunately did her ACL in the 2020 NPL New South Wales Grand Final when she was playing for Sydney University, but she's all the way back. Victory fans will know this. One of the toughest tacklers in the competition, will sure frighten a lot of attackers before this season's done. And
I think we all know that.
And
but she's great, yeah.
Yeah, and you have a great deal of experience for a Phoenix side that is very, very young. Otherwise, I think she's 23 and she's like one of the most experienced players.
And it's great to have Annabelle and also Chelsea Blissett come back after an ACL as well that we missed out on having in the league last season.
Yes, Chelsea. That's right, Chelsea. That was City really could have done with her last season. I'm sorry, my beloved Melbourne City could have really done with her last season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Chelsea as well. Also Adelaide, they've been quite testing my ability to update the Beyond 90 squads page quickly. So on Friday, the 2 announcements. Emma Stanbury, most recent dub team was Canberra. She has also played for Newcastle. And also they signed Nanako Sasaki from Adelaide Comets in the local NPL South Australia comp. So those 2 are both midfielders. and quite kind of creative, the pair of them. So looking forward to that. And then today announcing a pair of young defenders on scholarship contracts. They're both Victorian, which is interesting. So Grace Taranto from Bulleen Lions and Leah Varley from Football Victoria emerging. So their squad's looking pretty much full. It's good to see that every team has announced at least 16 players, which is a far cry. For those of you that are new to this competition, we can all tell some stories about discovering entire squads in round one when we looked at the team sheet. So I was actually interested by a lot of 3 signings for the Newcastle Jets. They're all midfielders. Bethany Gordon, who you'd remember if you were kind of a really committed Canberra United fan, had 1 season in the nation's capital in 2017-18. She has played for the Young Matildas. She's a very feisty, very combative midfielder. Also has a great deal of skill. She's coming off an excellent season in NPL New South Wales with Macarthur Rams. So I'm looking forward to seeing her run around in the Jets midfield. And Bethany Gordon, also one of my candidates for first yellow card of the season.
Oh,
and also there's a lot of hot competition for that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also, I love seeing players coming up from academies. So 2 players from the Emerging Jets Academy, Josie Morley and Lara Gooch, both have experience with the Junior Matildas. I remember being really impressed by Josie Morley, observing her, and I think in a maybe it might even be the NPL season before this year's one, playing in that Jets midfield. And so, yeah, it's good to see Ash Wilson, of course, also the Emerging Jets coach. So she's always going to give those young players a go. And I think this isn't quite not necessarily signing news, but Cheryl put it in there. There was a game between the NPL Queensland All-Stars and Brisbane Roar. The All-Stars won 2-1. Did you see that match?
I did. I was out there on Saturday. A lot of people missing from the signed Brisbane squad, but and there were a lot of train-on players. So I'm expecting that Gareth McPherson was testing out some of the younger defenders coming up from the QAS to see who else might be getting signed. Ellen Gett, who's a really great young player from the QAS, she played the whole game. So I wouldn't be surprised if she might get a look in this season with the contract. But yeah, missing a fair few players, but a absolutely stunning goal for the NPL All-Stars to win it from Amy Gunston, cutting in and just floating it past the keeper. Great goal.
Question as well, given that we're up to the last round, or actually the championship match or the final match, whichever we call it, in the NWSL, this is so the NWSL is the competition in the United States where a number of players from Australia have previously gone there and played, but we also get a bit of a reciprocal arrangement, and they'll come here down under as well to get some lovely summer if that should ever eventuate in Victoria. But anyway, do we think that we'll see some signings coming from there, given that some of the COVID restrictions have changed and whatnot?
I think we will. I mean, there's already been a few that have come across. The 2 Americans who've signed for Canberra have already turned up. They've already served their quarantine and they're going about their business. And as you say, Shez, like there's been a really good pathway of kind of emerging NWSL players who have made a pretty good name for themselves. You know, players like Simone Charlie made a real name for herself at Canberra before she kind of broke into the Portland first team. You've got other players like Britt Eckerstrom, who's recently retired, who have served a good portion of their career out here. So I think that in the coming kind of fortnight, maybe not before the first round, I think we'll see some signings. The semi-finals were only this morning, our time. And as you mentioned, the final is next Sunday, I believe, at Louisville Stadium. So, I think I don't expect, like Christine Sinclair and Megan Rapinoe to be coming out. But yeah, I think that there'll be some signings. And I really I love when those players come out here and just like, give it their all. Please give it your all. I'm paying good money for these season tickets. But also, like it gives them an opportunity to really kind of show what they can do in their best position. A lot of time we see players come over here and kind of blow the lid off the league, and that's really what we want to see, young players doing well.
Oh, well, not even young players. We'd have to go through the list to see how many players have come over here, so US-based players who have come over to Australia and then been picked up and given a run in the US women's national team, which is really exciting stuff. I think that probably helped and hindered Western Sydney Wanderers the year that they had both Lynn Williams and Kristen Hamilton, I think, were playing for them, and then they were both called up to come back. I think there was also, trying to think of all the names, but there are so many players who have come, impressed, been called back. And talking about Megan Rapinoe, I mean, we've definitely had her come here. She played 1, 2, 3 matches maybe for Sydney FC back in the day. We have had a lot of players come here, and that's been fantastic for us. Not even necessarily as marquee players, but yeah, it's been really fantastic to see them. All right, let's start going around the world. And I'm hoping that someone's watched some of the Champions League matches and can give us a bit of an introduction into what the Champions League is to anyone who's a new listener and doesn't understand the format. And it's a brand new format as well, so it is different.
The Champions League this season has moved from a direct knockout, more like a cup tournament, to an actual league, fairly similar to the way that the men's tournament has worked since 1992. So there's 4 groups of 4 teams. Kind of the big countries, Germany, France, England, and Spain are both. They're both represented by 2 teams, and there's a number of teams from across the rest of Europe in there as well. Obviously, the teams that we kind of look at the most are teams like Lyon to see Ellie Carpenter. We've got Sam Kerr at Chelsea. Manchester City didn't make it through the knockout ranges game, so we would have seen Alana Kennedy and Hayley Russo there, but we've also got Dylan Holmes at BK Häcken as well. And of course, we cannot forget Tessa Tamplin at Servette Chinois, who unfortunately did not have a very good time out last week. But yeah, so 4 groups of 4. And the competition has been really, really interesting this year. There's kind of almost a league within a league at this point. So the 4 groups of 4, there's 2 fairly obvious groups where the top 2 will go through at this point. There's also a group, you've got Chelsea, Juventus, Wolfsburg, and Servette in that league, in that group. So that's been pretty tight. And those the Juventus Wolfsburg game was probably the game of the round this week. That and the Lyon Bayern game. But yeah, it's been a pretty interesting tournament so far. We're halfway through the group stage at this point, and there's 2 groups where there's a fairly obvious winner at this stage, unless obviously things change. But there's 2 groups where, I mean, really anything can happen at this point. But yeah, so it's been interesting so far. We did get the first round of the distance derby in Group A, I believe it is, with Kharkiv and Breidablik playing a 0-0 draw after their 4,500 kilometer away trip, which was great. But yeah, it's been a really interesting tournament so far. Next round is this Thursday Australian time, and I think it's Thursday it's Wednesday and Friday night. Wednesday and Thursday night over there. So Thursday and Friday mornings over here. And the good thing is kickoffs are at 7:00 from now on. The second game kicks off at 7:00 on Thursday and Friday morning. So you can get up, enjoy your cup of tea, smash your granola, and just watch some great women's football for free because it's all on YouTube.
I think that's the thing as well. Some people who may be new listeners or new watchers to football don't necessarily understand the 2 a.m. games and the heartache that you have. I mean, if you're sitting there watching AFLW, it's probably in a good time zone for you if you're Australian based, even if you're on the West Coast or something, or on the East Coast with a West Coast match, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. But when we're talking about watching any football pretty much outside of Australia, it can get quite tough. But definitely, as Dale said, it's on YouTube. Go to DAZN is the YouTube space where you'll be able to get all of those games. Not only can you get all of those games, you can get those games in different languages as well, it's free. So it's absolutely nuts, and such a change to how we've been able to watch football in the past. Let's go around the world a little bit more. We stopped pretty quickly just for the Champions League, but we've got Matildas and Australian players playing a lot of places, I was about to say everywhere around the world, but in a lot of places. And we do just focus on the women. There's plenty of podcasts out there that focus on the men as well. But in Japan, they have what they call the Women's Empowerment League, so the WE League. They're up to match week 9. The player that we have there is Alex Chiak. She's played in the Matildas. She's played for Adelaide United, Melbourne City. She plays for the team that's currently 4th on the table, Jeff Chiba. They had a 2-0 victory over Najima Stella Kanagawa Sagamihara. So there you go. I'm sure that you can truncate their name to something else, but I'd try and my pronunciation is not the best very often or at all, but you may as well give it a go. So a good win anyway to Alex Chidiak and Jeff Chiba. In the UK, in the FAWSL, which is the league where most of the Aussies are playing, or most of the Matildas are playing overseas at the moment. It's a big weekend in football. They've just had Women's Football Weekend, which is where across the country, all of the matches in the Women's Super League, which is the top tier football, and the FA Championship, which is the second tier, all of those matches were available to watch on TV and online, which makes it really accessible for people to see that.
Yes, thanks. This is the football I actually have watched. Thanks, Cheryl. So, and it was great. Ben Gilby, I think covered it. Like, does a great lot of work for us. He's based in England. Somehow managed to cover NPL South Australia this season. I don't know how he did it, but anyway, he's talking about all matches in the top 2 tiers being available both either on TV or online. And also, it was also the first round of the Women's FA Cup, where my beloved Leeds United got up over Hartlepool, so we're into the second round. So yeah, it was a really big weekend, and that really continued with the FAWSL action. So I think firstly, we got to start with the North London derby. So Tottenham versus Arsenal, and also Ben Gilby has an article on our website about that, which I encourage you to read. Basically, everything you want from a derby. Arsenal dominated possession, territory, and shots. Beth Mead and Katie McCabe hit the crossbar, but then you know the way. Tottenham took the lead. In the second half, we'll call it a bundled finish. Rachel Williams just kind of ran into the ball and forced it over the line. Ash Neville should have doubled Tottenham's lead soon afterwards, but missed a great chance. And then Viviana Miedema, as always, saved Arsenal in stoppage time with a great header from a equally great Katie McCabe corner kick. So 1-1 the final score there. Tottenham dropped to fourth, Arsenal are top, and they're 1 point clear of Chelsea, who did many, many bad things to Manchester City. Yes. They're so basically Jessie Fleming intercepted a City were trying to play out from the back in the second minute and scored. That set the tone. It's another very mediocre performance for Man City. Standard goals for Sam Kerr and Fran Kirby, and Magda Eriksson scored as well. So 4-0 to Chelsea, the final score there. The other Manchester side did better. Manchester United drew 1-1 with Everton. Great counterattack from United in the 10th minute to open the scoring. Alessia Russo and Martha Thomas did well. Ella Toon scored. Then Everton equalised late. There was a mix-up between Maria Thorisdottir and Mary Earps, and Northern Ireland international Simone McGill pounced. She may have kicked it out of Mary Earps' hands, but the goal stood. Both sides could have scored more, but it won all the final score there. And then back to the Greater London area. At the delightfully named Chigwell Construction Stadium, West Ham played a thriller with Reading. Hammers took a 2-0 lead thanks to headers from Lisa Evans and Grace Fisk. But then West Ham did West Ham things and let Reading back into it. Own goal from Abby Lee Stringer with 20 minutes to go. And then Emma Harries equalised in stoppage time for Reading. Mackenzie Arnold couldn't quite prevent the ball going over the line. So 2-2 the final score. Then in what they call the second city derby, Birmingham versus Aston Villa. Anita Asante scored the only goal of the game on 25 minutes from Sarah Mailing's corner kick. Villa up to 6th, doing well. Birmingham in 11th, still winless. And the final game, Brighton beat Leicester 1-0 at the Amex Stadium to go up into 3rd. They deserve a lot of credit. They left it late. It was a Maisie Simmons free kick in the 93rd minute. So good news for Brighton. Leicester still bottom and without any points, though, unfortunately. And I think that's the WSL this week.
Very good. Thanks for that wrap. So there are 10 Matildas playing in the FAWSL if anyone's interested in watching it. It is maybe a little bit trickier to watch than some of the leagues that you might see when you talk about the NWSL that's on Twitch. And they used to be on YouTube. It all changes. Stay in touch with what's going on. For the FAWSL at the moment, you need to be a subscriber to the Optus Sport app, which I can't remember how much it costs. So do pay for it. And then you can watch usually a game or a few games or highlights of games, and they have mini matches that can catch you up in a couple of minutes, and then they have 20-minute versions of the matches, so you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing either. So Optus actually provide a terrific service in how they're doing it, but they don't get access to all of the matches. If you have a VPN, and I'm not suggesting that you do, if you have a VPN, then you can watch more of those matches on through BBC Sport, I think is probably the way to watch them. Let's move on to Europe, which we already talked about briefly. So we said how Lyon had a big win over PSG. Lyon is where, as we said, Ellie Carpenter, massive player for the Matildas at the moment, still incredibly young, is playing in Lyon with some of the best footballers in the world. They had a 6-1 victory over PSG. So that's 1v2. Massive change. And then the only other player that we've got in the French league at the moment is Mary Fowler, is playing for Montpellier. They're 6th on the table right now. They had a 3-0 victory over the 10th placed ICFF. In Italy, we've also got 2 players playing there. We've got Ella Mastrantonio playing for Lazio. They were 5-0 losers against Juventus, and Dale talked about Juventus earlier, but Juventus is also the current home of a former Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City and Arsenal coach Joe Montemurro. So he's a Melbourne-born guy. Great to see him doing so well with them. And then Ivy Lewick, a Matilda who's retired from international duty, is playing for Pomigliano, 7th on the table at the moment. They had a 2-0 loss against 3rd-placed Milan. We better throw over to Steffen. This is one of the most exciting bits about football at the moment. We've got so many Matildas playing in the Nordic football realm, and Steffen is our expert, knows everything about it.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Steffen. I cover the Canberra NPLW and as much of the team in green as I can. And last year we had 3 Canberra United players over in the Nordic League, so I've been enjoying covering them the last 2 years. So things are starting to wind down over in the Nordic leagues. There's only 3 games to talk about, but there's some big things that happened in a couple of them. Firstly, over in Norway, they played the last round of the season, and Carly Rosbacken's LSK Kvinner, they had a 2-0 loss at home against the champions of this year, Sandviken. Now, in one sense, it was a dead rubber because the result couldn't change the standings at all in the league. But there's some big things, big landmark things going on. Bronze medals were awarded to LSK Kvinner at the end of their home game, so that was nice to see in the coverage. But they're losing 2 of their most experienced players in the league for next season. So, just quickly too, Nicola Orgill, she played about the first third of the season with Klepp, and she's just returned to Australia, having got injured back in July. So we hope that she's recovering okay, and hopefully we'll see her in the A-League W soon. And quickly down to Denmark, in their second last round of the league, Fortuna Høring had a good 2-0 away win against 6th place Kolding BK. Claire Wheeler, Angie Beard and India Page Riley all started the game, and Indy played an hour. Angie Beard picked up a yellow card in the 83rd minute. Angie's dead ball delivery led to the first goal by their midfielder Janelle Cordia, and Claire Wheeler scored his second goal for the club, and a team's second goal in this particular game in the 54th minute, and it was an absolute belter from about 22 yards out, hit the underside of the crossbar and went in. So it's really, really terrific goal. And Alex Wynn was an unused substitute.
Steffen, I need to break in there. I don't really believe that Angie Beard picked up a yellow card. It's not possible. She's a brilliant player. Did you see what happened? Can we challenge the referee call on this one?
No, I only saw the highlights, but it is a tad unusual, isn't it?
As a massive Melbourne Victory fan, Angie Beard was the captain last season when they actually won the whole championship. It was such an amazing game, and also many years ago, Madge, she played for Brisbane Roar, and did she take a pen and the pen was saved and it was devastating?
I will love her forever for that game. We were playing Melbourne City, who at that stage had been undefeated. No one had even had a draw with them. And she had, I think she was 16.
She was a young.
An absolute blinder of a game. Her and Claire Polkinghorne were just repelling every single Melbourne City attack. Went to extra time, no score. And unfortunately, then after having such a fantastic game in defence, she missed the penalty. It was heartbreaking, but I have absolutely loved her ever since.
Way to get the fans on board. Angie Beard is a real asset to the W League anywhere she plays. Actually, she's terrific to watch and does a great job. Sorry, Stefan, keep going. I'm sure the referee call was absolutely right somehow.
Just the one more game to talk about in Denmark. Jenna McCormick's AGF. They lost 2-0 away to the champions of this season, HB Kirk. She played the full minutes as she has all year, and the team, unfortunately, in 7th place, are headed for the relegation playoffs. And that's the Nordic Leagues.
Oh, thanks very much for that, Stefan. Anyone want to take us through what's been happening in the USA in the NWSL, or shall I just go through that myself? There you go. Dale's picked it up.
We're at the pointy end. So Portland, who were we're going on for a quadruple at this point. They won 3 trophies this season. They won what was called, I think, the Challenge Cup. They won the Fall Challenge, something else. They won 3 trophies. Anyway, so they had a home game against Chicago Red Stars. They were without influential midfielder Lindsay Horan. The great Horan, unfortunately, picked up an eye injury in a preceding game, I believe, and she was out with that. They actually ended up being pretty big upset, actually. Chicago ended up getting the Bickies 2-0 in that game. And the other semi-final was Washington Spirit, former home team of a number of Australian players. Last that I can remember was Amy Harrison was there a few seasons ago.
Chloe Lugazzo was there.
Chloe Lugazzo was there as well.
Yeah.
They ended up beating the OL Reign, who are based just outside Seattle, used to be called Seattle Reign. They beat them as well. I believe it was 2-0 as well. So the big dance, the final, will be held at the home stadium of Racing Louisville in the great state of Kentucky. Their former home venue was called Slugger Field because it's the home of the Louisville baseball team. And they will be playing there, I believe, next Monday morning our time. DC, obviously Washington DC is not very well known for its sporting success. It is known for many things, but sporting success is definitely not one of them. So I think it'll be a really, really interesting game. Chicago also have kind of been the bridesmaid, for want of a word, a number of times. They had that really successful Sam Kerr season when she broke the all-time scoring record and season scoring record in NWSL, and they couldn't get it done against North Carolina. It's kind of 2 teams who are really, they're ready to win a championship. So it'll be a really super interesting game, this one, I think. Tip for me is I think that Chicago will get it done, but gamble responsibly and do your own research.
Or don't gamble at all. Hey, one final thing, Dale, and I'm not sure if you're across it, but San Diego Wave Football Club has been announced as the 12th team to join the competition in spring 2022, I think it is. So the NWSL is probably the third incantation of having a national league in the US, or maybe more than that. The NWSL has been going for a while. It's been a bit more successful. There's still been challenges around ownership and management and behavior. But interesting, and we'll see how that goes for San Diego. I think they've got their coaching lined up.
They've taken Casey Stoney, former Manchester United women's coach. They don't have any players just yet. I mean, they're 18 months away from playing, so that's kind of a long way away from being an issue, or 12 months away from playing.
Good time to start an academy.
heaps of time, but they've also, we'll probably come onto this later, but there hasn't been a California team. It's the most populous state in the US. Hasn't been a California team in the NWSL up until this point. So there's now going to be 2 with Angel City and San Diego having some kind of, California Classico, which we love to see. So yeah, really good news. More teams in the NWSL. We know that America has a massive women's football culture. So I think it can only be a success.
Thanks for that, Dale. All right, now we get into probably my favourite segment of the week, which is where we talk about the Queens of the Week, which are basically the players or the women out there involved in refereeing, whatever it might be, who we think deserve some kudos for the week. We sometimes talk about kings and jokers as well, but more frequently it's just celebrating the positive representation of women in football. Maj, throw us in the deep end with your pick.
Yep. So yeah, I'm going back to the UEFA Women's Champions League, so the European Super League over there, and our own Steph Catley. Now, I didn't catch many of these games, but if you were anywhere on social media, you could not have missed this absolute pearler of a goal. I think it's her first for Arsenal. She plays, of course, for Arsenal in England, one of the super clubs there. An absolute peach of a free kick, just beautifully directed into the top left right hand corner, depending which way you're looking. Brilliant free kick. Check it out on Twitter or Facebook. It's everywhere. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. And that'd be my pick as well, because I'm a massive Steph Catley fan, one of the very few Matildas that we have who's from Victoria, although she's not played her football here for a little while. She's been overseas playing and doesn't score that often. So, yeah.
But she scores those.
Yeah. So
when she does.
Give her kudos for that one. Who's next? I think Eric wants to send some love to some Irish football space.
Thank you for leading me in very nicely, Cheryl. That was what I was going to say to kind of any first-time listeners. Get used to me raving about Irish footballers. So my queen of the week is actually the woman who scored the only goal of the game in the first women's game I call for NPL TV. Julianne Russell, formerly of Sydney University, now playing an Irish international and now playing for her hometown club Galway in the Irish Women's National League, helped them stage an incredible comeback in the last round of the season. Galway were 2-0 down away to league leaders Peamount United. They ended up winning 5-2. Julianne scored after somehow finding space in a crowded penalty area and then sneaking a shot between a defender's legs and into the bottom corner. It was a big night. The result opened the door for Shelbourne to sneak in and snatch the title on the last day. So congratulations to them as well.
That must be Stefan's turn.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, I've foreshadowed this one before, but one of the great things about watching our Aussies play in international leagues is that you gain an appreciation of the other fantastic players in that league, players you may not have seen before. So when you see players like Amelia Harvey over at LSK Kovina, you can then appreciate how she's playing for her national team in the big international competitions. So it really just enhances your enjoyment of the whole game. Yeah, as I said, she's finishing up at age 29, looking for a challenge. Played 215 games since 2013. She scored 108 goals and has represented Norway since 2010, making her debut at 18 years of age. She's a left-sided attacker and just remarkable and clearly one of the best players in the league. And I've really enjoyed watching her play the last couple of years.
Good on you. And what about you, Dale? Have you done any homework? I can't see it in the show notes, but I'm sure
I have done many homeworks. Specifically, I just wanted to give my Queen of the Week to one of the all-time greats in Ada Hegerberg. She scored her first and second goals back for Lyon after a pretty long and complicated return from an anterior cruciate ligament injury. Hegerberg is like, aside from probably like Sam Kerr and maybe 2 or 3 others, like inarguably one of the best players in the world. She was the first player to win the Women's Ballon d'Or. She doesn't play for her national team at the moment because of a dispute with the Football Federation there. But like when she plays for Lyon, she is literally unstoppable. Lyon, as we mentioned, got a big 6-1 win over PSG at Stade Lyon on the weekend. And yeah, she broke down in tears after scoring her first goal. She was a bit misty in the post-match as well. But yeah, she's a phenomenal player to watch. I actually got the chance to listen to her speak at the World Cup in France. She obviously didn't play, but she did a little kind of open mic session with Copper 90 and just like an incredible all-round talent, incredibly intelligent woman, and has a lot of very interesting things to say. So good luck to her. She's my queen of the week. I do have a joker this week, fairly rare. We did speak about San Diego Wave earlier. I want to give the joker of the week this week to Angel City Football Club from Los Angeles. Angel City have signed one player in Christian Press, US national team player, and they have now been fined twice for breaches of transfer regulations. They announced that Press had been signed before she had actually put pen to paper on a contract, and now they have been fined again for tapping her up outside of the transfer window. So let this be a lesson: follow the rules or pay the fines. And they are my jokers.
I think they were just excited, surely. Talking about jokers of the week, it's unfortunate and probably the first time ever that we've had two jokers. But my joker of the week goes to Adam Peacock, who's a Fox football commentator who, throughout watching the Socceroos match just recently, made an inappropriate comment on Twitter, which has since been deleted, but not necessarily quick enough or not with enough remorse. So we will post details of what that was, but basically we want to make sure that anyone should be able to go to a football match without unwanted physical attention, unwanted sexual attention at those matches. So let's just be above board and allow people to watch football, because that's what they're there for. All right, that's probably the wrap. I don't want to finish on a sad note, though. Let's finish on a great note. In not too long, I think the 27th, so 12 days away, we've got a match between the Matildas and the USA, which are the world's number one ranked team. They are coming to Sydney. Get your tickets if you haven't already. If you're in Sydney, you definitely need to be going to the game. The ticket sales have been absolutely amazing. If you're in Melbourne or anywhere else in the world, you might want to, you can fly in from anywhere around the world these days. So come on in, watch the match. There's also a follow-up match on the Tuesday, I think, at Newcastle Stadium, which is an awesome stadium. It'll be a great venue. So that's the highs. We'll definitely talk about those leading into it next week. Hopefully there'll be some press conferences. Alrighty, that's a great show. Thank you everyone for listening in. Thanks to all of the co-hosts that we have on the show as well. It's always my big dream to just talk about football all the time, and you guys make it possible. So thank you so much. Anyone who's listening to the podcast, thanks very much. If you love any of it, give us a review, find us, give us a shout out, something like that. If there's stuff that you don't like, let us know. If there's more that you want to hear about, let us know that as well. So anyway, on behalf of the Beyond 90 entire team, not just the team who come on the podcast, thanks for listening. Thanks for reading, and do more. Yeah, football. We love it. Thank you. Bye-bye.